Respect the haka.
Respect the
That's
haka.
all we need to
Let's
do.
look at your trends this morning. Zuma is trending. So Matthews Phosa, you remember him as the former Treasury General of the ANC. In his memoir titled Witness to Power, makes some claims about the former President Jacob Zuma and his relationship with the Guptas. In the book, Phosa claims that somewhere in 2010, while he was still the Treasury General of the party, the Guptas revealed to him that they made a contribution of 20 million rand for the party via Zuma. However, that donation was not reflected anywhere in the statement of account of the ANC.
Oh, so now we're also trending. The EFF MP Tambo has come at the MK party accusing leader Jacob Zuma of having weaponized his ANC membership and the history of Umkhonto weSizwe to cannibalize the ANC and reduce it to 40%. Tambo says that the MK party now wants to weaponize black unity to eat the EFF from within. And according to him, the MK party weaponizes the discourse of black people, black unity, for purposes of infiltrating other progressives. Yeah. I'm sure that will stir something up between the MK and the EFF.
Certainly. I actually asked him yesterday on X, this is now, whether the EFF and the MK party are still part of the so-called Progressive Caucus in Parliament. This was his response. Yep, we had a meeting just last week where it was clear that our relationship in Parliament must remain a program and legislation based. And you just think about the allegation that has been made. How do these people even trust each other to push together a program of this nature? But anyway, we're going to see how that is going to play out. Chiefs and Zanin are trending this morning. Kaizer Chiefs fan Mushakaro claims that he has honored his commitment to walk to Zanin after his club loss to Sundowns. Mushakaro Moahi made a commitment during his Chiefs versus Sundowns match that he would walk from Johannesburg to Zanin if Sundowns won. After Chiefs 4-0 loss against Mamelodi Sundowns, Mushakaro posted videos claiming that he was walking to Zanin. I love the emphasis on claiming. However, people are skeptical if he did walk if he walked entirely by foot. The distance is estimated to take at least 2 to 3 days to walk by foot. But let's listen. Here's one of the clips that he posted.
Kita muria benon kya hai bala kini vile hai ofit we can le bojore e kita mada modero level stampono na we kiti bakala kula lam kala velo lam mood we kitaka twin that's why I'm sweating kya hai kala pile but kya one I was getting some few kilometers I think about 70 something kilometers or kifita hai kya tena nampana maria masasa pana chakane train sporoni. Get now here. 4 minutes. 4 seconds. Picture 4. Boy.
Well, people are skeptical. I am people. I think 2 to 3 days to walk by foot. That would have been at a steady, consistent pace. It's about I think just over 400 kilometers to get to Zanin.
411, yeah.
Correct. So if you are stopping in between, as you would as a person who's walking, it wouldn't take you just 2 to 3 days to take you far long.
He also looks very fresh.
Too fresh.
For somebody who's been walking so many kilometers.
But you know what? We appreciate the effort and him sticking to his word, because they'd made the promise that he would walk. So he made the effort. Whether or not he walked the entire distance, that's still debatable.
A quick one. A couple of years ago when Julius Malema was still leader of the EFF, I don't know if you still remember, they had a march from Johannesburg to Pretoria and they were going to walk. But Julius didn't walk the entire...
Got in the car, had some
So
corners.
this kind of reminded me of that moment. But anyway,
and
I'm not saying that he didn't
as
walk.
well, as I suppose with the Soweto Marathon just having concluded over the weekend, people do that at races, You go into the bushes, someone else comes out, completes the other leg of it. So, it's the thought that counts, some people say. But let's round off the trends then. Chelsea also trending this morning. And this after Manchester United's 1-1 draw with Chelsea at Old Trafford in the Premier League yesterday. A bigger topic, though, would be Manchester United and when they will get yet another win. It's their worst start to a Premier League season in 18 years, just 12 points from the 10 games that they've played so far. So it does look like things are not looking good for the Red Devils.
Yeah, you've made it in life if a draw is your worst start. That brings us to the end of the trends as well as the paper run. Still to come here on the AM report, the outgoing president of Botswana, Mokgweetsi Masisi, will today hand over the office to the incoming president, Advocate Zuma from the Umbrella for Democratic Change. We speak to the election observer Tendai Mbanje after this. Stay tuned.
Or to rotate.
Tendai, good morning. It's Aldrin here. Can you hear me?
Just a second. It's not.
45 seconds.
Sorry. I'm using my phone. I'm failing to see the option. It's okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Tendai, good morning. It's Aldrin here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Aldrin. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. We'll be with you just after this. Welcome back. So voters in Botswana removed from office the Botswana Democratic Party, which has ruled them for 58 years, by handing a victory to an opposition coalition in its presidential candidate, Advocate Zuma. The human rights lawyer was declared the winner on Friday and sworn in during a closed session at the office of the Chief Justice. More than 1 million people were registered to vote out of a population of 2.6 million. For more analysis, let's now speak to the deputy head of a mission, the African Center for Governance Election Observation, a mission, Tendai Mbanje, who joins us now live from Gaborone in Botswana. Tendai, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. I don't know, from your end, are you able to describe to us, after the election results started coming in and it was clear that that the governing party, now the former governing party, has lost power, what the mood was like, but also for the election observers, because for the past 58 years, this party has been winning these elections.
Thank you, Adrian. I think, I think when we started noticing that the results were coming in, there was a kind of a shock from citizens. We started receiving reports that there were people gathering and celebrating because from the early stage, it was telling that the opposition was on an upper end. This was actually contrary to what we had gathered in the pre-election assessment mission when we were invited to assess the context of the election and to assess whether Botswana was ready for election. Of course, we noted that Botswana was ready for election, but there were serious issues to do with the independence of the IEC, which was raised by opposition parties. There were issues to do with political state funding for political parties. As you know, that in Botswana, political parties are not funded by the state yet. There were issues to do with inactive civil society resulting from underfunding from the state. There's so many issues that were a threat to the democratic space. So coming into the space, the election space, I personally had an assumption that perhaps the ruling party was going to win, maybe with a narrow margin, given that the opposition did not demonstrate fully that it had capacity and resources to have a head-on to this contest. So what we saw was actually a shock. My interaction with citizens, they were quite shocked that actually the ruling party was quite whipped with such a wide margin. Yeah. So of course, the electorate was dissatisfied because of economic issues and unemployment, among other things.
Yeah. Were there any people that actually cried foul over the election results out of the political parties that were contesting? Yes, President Mokgweetsi Masisi has conceded defeat, but is it known whether there were any allegations around vote rigging?
As far as I know, and we have gathered, there were no allegations of that. We had reports from our observers that when time for closing and taking the ballot boxes to the counting centers, political parties were putting also their locks on ballot boxes. In a way, you know, there's this trend to say, let's protect the vote. We had those reports of protecting the vote. But in as far as allegations of vote rigging, not in the election, but there were speculations ahead of the election given the unlevel playing field that existed just prior to the elections.
Yeah, and the reason that I asked that question as well is that even though the UDC has won the election, one of the points that they raised prior to the election taking place was accusing Zimbabwe and ZANU-PF of interfering in the elections in Botswana to an extent where there was this allegation as well that Zimbabwean nationals would be allowed to vote in these elections in Botswana. What has your observation been around this particular allegation?
This particular allegation resulted from what happened when we saw Mozambicans that participated in Zimbabweans that participated in the Mozambican election. They were voting and the videos were open. So that fear brewed in Botswana, which was, of course, it was a well-founded fear to some extent, given that but some Zimbabweans had participated from the videos that we see in Mozambique elections. So, of course, in an environment where the former incumbent, or the President Masisi, is close ties with Zimbabwe, the connection could be put by opposition parties out of desperation or out of trying to spread awareness to say this is a possibility. But also seeing Zimbabwean officials visiting Botswana during the election campaigns kind of solidified those speculations. And on the election day itself, after President Masisi had casted his vote, we saw some Zimbabwean officials sending wishes from the Zimbabwean president. So, but that did not, from what we saw on the ground, that did not have much any impact apart from it being just a mere speculation.
Yeah, and of course, today, Advocate Boko will be taking over the reins as the president of Botswana, as there's going to be this handover that is going to be taking place. But as part of the recommendations that you'll be giving to him as the head of state, or even to the Electoral Commission, what is it that you believe that the state should be taking into consideration to ensure that you deal with some of those aspects that you highlighted right at the beginning of our conversation, including who funds political parties?
Certainly, there are so many issues. Our research, academic, show that Botswana has been on a steady decline in terms of the democratic space. The democratic space has been shrinking as a result of many factors. Since Botswana was declared a middle-income country, development partners pulled out of Botswana and are not able to fund civil society. So key recommendations will be, for instance, to revive civil society, to fund fully and adequately civil society so that civil society is vibrant. That's one key area. Then electoral reforms. The IEC is located within the Ministry of State Presidency. The IEC needs to be, there's need for those reforms so that the IEC is independent insofar as who it reports to, not directly to the president, because the president is also a political player who has vested interest in the elections. That's one key area. State funding for political parties allows maximum political participation, which is enshrined in the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, and also the Constitution of the Republic, that participation is a right, you know. So those are the key areas that we will put in our full report to ensure that there's a vibrant civil society, to ensure that political parties are able to do their work without hindrance.
Yeah, and also finally, I guess the lessons that are learned from a political party that has been in control since the dawn of their democracy in Botswana. Speaking here about the Botswana Democratic Party, that 58 years later it would lose power, but how President Masisi was able to concede absolutely no allegation that is being leveled from his end around how the elections were being run. But it was a peaceful transition. The lessons that are learned from this, and how do we ensure that this also trickles up, I guess, to the northern parts of the continent?
I think for me, the lessons that I learned here is that politicians often forget that they have to put the people first. I think the gesture that we've seen from President Masisi, despite him losing dismally, is that he has put people first, the people of Botswana. He has not tried by any means to contest this election result. We also see that sometimes the allegations of independence of electoral commission sometimes are just fears. They don't have a substance. Like we see in Botswana that President Masisi's party was accused for compromising the Independent Electoral Commission, which is not necessarily true. He did not. That's why he lost the election. He had respected it. He had confidence in his party. So we see that sometimes what we see, the perception is not reality. So the lessons that we learn here is that the politicians must put people first. And what has been demonstrated by the incumbent, the former incumbent, or the outgoing president is a good sign of putting people first, and also a good sign of humility to say and allow to pass on the baton and based on the will of the people. I think this is impressive.
Yeah. Tendai, quickly, can you confirm whether the Botswana Democratic Party only got one seat?
BDP got 4 seats in the National Assembly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Tendai Mbanje